Hi everyone, it's Paula from Paula Quilting. Welcome back to my channel, or hello if it's your first time. Today we are going to be working on half square triangles. And it is also one of the blocks for the quilt along for some Southampton Quilters. The half square triangles, how you will make them, there's many methods. It depends the size you want to achieve, the fabric you're working with, what size of that fabric is at the beginning. So you kind of have to pick the method which fits best for you. So you can do 2 at a time, you can do 4 at a time, you can do 8 at a time. For my project I'm picking 2 at a time, and there are two reasons for that. Is one, I'm working with the scrap, so I'm just cutting the pieces from the scrap fabric. My final or finished block will be 6.5 inches, so I need to have a bigger square for that. And second reason why I like 2 at a time is that once I finish my half square triangles, the bias is inside already sorted out with the seam. So on the outside, when I'm going to be linking blocks somewhere else, I don't have any, so it's a little bit easier on the sewing side. So for the 6.5 finished block, you would need to start from the 7-inch square, but that's if your seams are perfect. Mine aren't, so I'm starting from the 7.5-inch square, and I will just square it up to 6.5-inch after I've made them. Now we will be adding a small detail to those blocks as well, just to fit in with the design of the quilt, but on their own the blocks will look nice as well. So we will need for our quilt along 8 half square triangles. So I'm making 2 of those quilts at the same time, so obviously I will need twice more. So I went shopping in my stash. I almost finished my sorting of the sewing room, which will be part of a different video. So I went to shop my stash and I found 16 different fabrics I would like to use for that project. Oh, actually 15, for whatever reason I've got 2 the same, but never mind. Got 15 then, but 16 squares to work with. So for the half square triangles 2 at the time method, what you want to do, you want to take one of those squares. How I pair them up, I was trying to pair them up dark and light, but again I'm working with scrap, so that would not really kind of matter how I link them on this occasion. But you will work with your own fabric and see what is there. So what I want to do is draw a line in the middle of one of the squares, and I'm just using normal pen because this is where going to be our cutting line, so whatever works. I'll put those squares together. I gave myself quite nice allowance around, so even if they are not exactly lined up, it's fine. You may like to use the pins. I mean, with the bigger squares it's good to use pins to keep it in place before you move it to your machine. And what I want to do is sew on the both sides of those lines 1/4 inch away. Now I don't have my 1/4 inch foot on my machine at the moment, and because of that allowance I kept, I can go a little bit more than 1/4 and I will be fine too. But if you starting from the 7-inch squares to 6.5 final or finished block, then obviously you need to be careful with it. So what I will do now, I will pair and draw the lines on all of my blocks, or pair of the blocks, so they are all ready to be chained through the machine. Just aligning the right side of my foot with the line I drew, and I'm stitching straight. when you get to the end, you could turn around the block and go on the other side, but I like to chain piece everything. So I will stitch them on the one side, all of them, and then I will turn around and do the rest of the blocks on the other side in one go as well. But you do how it's comfortable for you, and maybe also it will depend how big your blocks are. If they are like 10 inches or something, you know, the big ones, you may like do one at a time. Now I need to just cut it through here with the rotary cutter, and then I will be able to iron out. If the black and or dark and white is defined, I will go with the dark side, but most of my blocks don't have defined darker, brighter, so I can just iron them any direction. Then I will square them up to 6.5 inches, and we will add the last bit of the detail for those blocks to be ready. Now, before you take it to the ironing board, you know, or whilst you at the iron board, before you put the iron on top of your blocks, it's wise, or you know, it's good to kind of finger press those a little bit first, because it's a bias here inside. You don't want to stretch it, so if you carefully do it with the fingers first, and then you just put the iron on top of it, you have a nice, not wonky on this occasion, seam here in the middle. So the half square triangles really are one of those blocks where you need to be a little bit more careful when you're doing them, to kind of do not distort them. Whatever method you use, there is going to be some more bias you need to work with, so just take them slower than other blocks. Okay, time to square them up. You can use, you know, a ruler you have, square as you know, it has to be big as the block you want to do, or bigger, and it should have a diagonal line across. So that's what you're going to be using to square up your blocks. So you want to align that line with the middle of the block where the seam is. There are those block lock rulers where there's something there which kind of prevent from the moving. I don't have it, I'm just having a normal ruler. What you can do, try, is, depends how, you know, good your seam was, how straight your seam was, is to align at least one side here with your edges. That means you only got two sides to square up. If your block is a little bit more wonky than that, then obviously you want to be somewhere in the middle and square it all around. So just see how it goes with the blocks you've got. This one looks good on this side, so I will only square up those sides. And I might take off the dog ears. I didn't have to, but since I've been there already, so I could have done it. So that's my 6.5 inch block. I will square all of them now, and then I will be adding the snowballs. So let me do that, and I will show you the next step. Okay, so now it's time to add our snowballs, and how to do it evenly, or as best as we can. Two methods. You either take your squares and you also draw a line like we did with the half square triangles, but you will be sewing it on the line. So you'll be just adding the line here, and then we'll cut this part. Or the other option, which I use very often, is to draw myself a line or machine. So this foot has a little bit of groove here in the middle, so I'm basically making an extension from that groove down. And somebody did comment before that, oh, you're putting that Sharpie line on your machine, it's going to damage the machine. Well, I've made that line so many times and it's coming off every time because, you know, the fabric I'm putting through, it's got creates the friction, and just wiping it off with time. It takes a little bit of time, but it's going to be disappearing. So I'm just moving my needle to make it in the center with that groove on the foot. Now your line might be somewhere else if you cannot move the needle, so you just go from the needle down in the straight line. And then what I will do is, obviously I'm starting with the needle down where my corner of the square is, and I'm aligning the other side of the square with my line. And you know, don't rush that process. The better you sew, or the straighter you sew on that line here, the better the result with your corners. And as I'm sewing, I'm just observing that line here, that my corner here is still aligned. I'm not worrying about what's happening under the needle because obviously machine will pull the fabric. I'm just checking that my corner here is aligned with my line. Okay, next one. Again, I'm chain piecing everything. I'll just pick up something from my basket. Let's set on this side. So here I won't be drawing a line anymore, so you can see exactly what I'm talking about here. So I'm lifting my foot, I'm scooping my fabric so my needle is just by that corner there, and I'm literally taking 1-2 stitches onto the fabric, and then I'm making sure that the other side of the square is the corner of that square is on my line. Stop here. There are also tapes you can buy. It's called diagonal seam or something like that. You look it up, or you can just stick a tape which will give you the same effect. I wasn't looking for it myself because, you know, I'm just using this method and it works well. But if you don't want to draw on your machine, or, you know, have any markings, then you can obviously look for that tape. Okay, we're only snowballing the one side of the block, so that was not a very long process, which is great. Now what I will need to do is cut off that section on the right from the seam, iron them out, and the blocks are going to be ready. Now, before I show you how they look or where they go into the quilt or how they match with the quilt, the one I've got already, or the blocks I've got already for the quilt, I will pop them on the design wheel just to show you how you can arrange them if you're just doing those blocks, because they are quite nice, easy to make. As you can see, it was quite fast process. You can use lots of scraps, or just, you know, do some more color coordinated stuff, depend where you're starting from, what fabric you're starting from, and you can arrange them in few options at least, I think. So let's have a look what we can make up out of them. So I'm cutting off the edges here. So that gives me very small scrap of the triangles. I'm not so desperate to sew them together and then square them up to something very silly small. I mean, some people will enjoy that, so by all means go ahead and do that. Instead, I will keep them and use them for different type of the project, which will be coming out possibly in the next couple of months, because I have gathered now quite a lot of those triangles, so it will be time to use them up. So if you're interested to see what will come up of those, be sure to subscribe and keep watching. Okay, so I finished my blocks, and before I put it with the actual quilt along, I will show you what options we can have with those blocks. So I think the basic shape you can achieve from this block is like a double square on diagonal, so that's quite nice design. And obviously I use the scrappy fabric, so they're all different. But if you kind of use coordinated fabric, then obviously maybe put this square the same and the same colors here, different than this ones, and obviously that the output will be different as well. But that's the look one you can have. So it's on the point, square in the square. Great block. Or you can put them other way around. So you will then have the big square in the square for this one. And then, just to separate it from other ones, you can put some sashing around. That will look great as well. Now, the other design you can have, and I will just put more blocks for that just to give you a better view, is make the flying geese. And when you're putting the other side, again, another column of the flying geese, that gives that secondary design here. So this way. Again, it will look so much different if you make it from, not scrappy totally, but some sort of coordinated fabric. But just to give you some idea. So you see the design of the flying geese coming here, and then you have that chevron effect in between. So that's a great design too. I actually quite like that, and it looks great with the scrappy. So that might be a good idea for quick quilt. And you saw that the process of making those 16 blocks, it probably took me like in total 40 minutes. And because I'm chain piecing everything, it would not take much more of the time to add extra 16. The time would not increase by another 30-40 minutes, maybe another 15, because you're batching the work. So here we go. So you can see that chevron coming out here nicely. But it always amazes me, like, you look at the block this way. This is like a standard way of looking at the block. What happens if you actually turn the block on the side, the same design with the flying geese, just put them that way. So now we have the flying geese coming this side. So as I'm putting those blocks, so just a quick recap how they were made. So I took 7.5 inch squares, put them together, draw a line in the middle, and I sewn on the both sides of the line. It wasn't 1/4 inch, but I had quite a nice allowance there for that, so I wasn't worried about it. Then I cut them on the drawing line, and I squared my half square triangles to 6.5 inches, and that small snowball is 2.5 inch square. You could go with a bigger here as well. The effect will be a bit different if you add different size of the square. But that's up to you and whatever you like design come up like. So let's look at this. So you see, just by putting the block, maybe blue one here, just putting the blocks, you know, in different direction, the design comes out differently, and it's exactly the same block. So I really like experiment with the layouts itself. It's the same block, just different layout, and makes so much big difference. Now it is a 6.5 inch block, so by all means you can mix it up with other 6.5 inch blocks you might have, like maybe some scrappy ones from cramps or strings, or plain one. Yeah, I mean, if you have a nice fabric, you don't want to cut into very small pieces, so you cut them into 6.5 inches and then throw them into design with those ones. That will look nice too. So you could possibly do something like that. So let's say you do every second square with those blocks, and then you make a square of the plane. So you could do that one as well, or don't make them so you have square, square, square one after another. Just put them like move them a little bit. So let me show you what I mean. Just shuffle them by one. So that's my second square here now. See, so I've got one square here and I've got one square here, and then you could have maybe another type of block with the third square, or just go with the same one, or go with this one, and you can have them on diagonal. So it is again very versatile block, and you can set them up in so many different ways for different results. So see, I've got this, and this block is the same, and they're going on diagonal that way, but I can put a second diagonal column with this type of blocks. So very nice block, quick to make, and great for the scraps. So before I show you where it goes into our quilt along, just to say, this is you know, we've got one more block to make and our quilt will be ready. For those who are doing that quilt along from Southampton Quilters group, hopefully we'll be able to see it on our September meeting, which will be first one face to face. That's the plan. Hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes well. For those who are just joining to see the tutorials on YouTube, if you are interested in that whole quilt, how it looks, and you know, where we started, the first few blocks are not on YouTube, but I will put the paper instructions on my Facebook group when we finish all the quilt. So if you would like to try yourself and go through all of those blocks, they are clearly marked on the YouTube, and also they've got different playlists, so you can go through one by one, see how we expand. But the first few blocks, they were not there, and the paper instructions are going to be available possibly sometime during the summer, which I will tell you when the last block is published. Okay, so our quilt grown so much that I'm unable to put it all on the design wall to show you how it looks all together, but I'm just showing you one corner, and that kind of replicates itself on all of them. So from the top we have our log cabins with quarter log cabins, then we have our strings, and underneath those are going our half square triangles. Obviously you receive also the layout on the PDF with the Southampton Quilters update, so you will be able to see where they're all going all around, but that's where they fit. So we have just one block left, or one type of the block left, which will come in here, and then obviously that part kind of goes on the other side as well, and it will be done. So I hope for those who are not Southampton Quilters, you've enjoyed that tutorial on the half square triangle with a snowball. I hope this method will be good for you to make any other half square triangles, any size really. And please leave your thumbs up if you like this tutorial. Please subscribe if you haven't done so yet, and make sure you let your other quilty friends know about this channel so they can benefit as well from some ideas. Thank you for watching. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe to my channel to support my work. For further inspiration and examples of my work, you can check my Instagram or Facebook page. Happy creating!